The air in Boston that October felt like something out of a dream, crisp but gentle, golden leaves swirling through the streets as if the entire city had chosen to celebrate with us. That was the day I became Mrs. Emily Parker Whitmore. I can still see the lights of the grand ballroom, the glittering crystal glasses, and the steady warmth of Daniel's hand wrapped around mine as we exchanged our vows. Everything about that wedding shimmered with magic. My parents had insisted on doing it properly, and Daniel's family was just as proud. But for me, the beauty wasn't in the chandeliers or the champagne. It was in the way Daniel looked at me as I walked down the aisle, as if I were the only person in the world. We had been together 3 years by then. 3 years of stolen weekends, late-night walks along the Charles River, and endless conversations about the future we dreamed of. When he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I knew he was the one. Daniel was already carving out his reputation as a promising young attorney. Well, I had just finished my degree in communications and landed my first real job. We were young, ambitious, in love, and ready to build a life together. The wedding felt like the culmination of every dream I'd carried since childhood, and our honeymoon only deepened that feeling. Daniel had a way of making even the smallest moment extraordinary, trying new foods at tucked-away restaurants, holding my hand in crowded streets, whispering how lucky he felt. And I believed him. I believed in us. The first years of marriage were as close to perfect as life can be. Our apartment in Boston wasn't big, but it was ours. We filled it with books, framed photographs, and the scent of seasonal candles I insisted on buying. Daniel worked long hours at his firm, often buried in case files. But no matter how late, he always came home with a smile. He'd drop his briefcase by the door, kiss my forehead, and ask about my day like nothing else mattered. Weekends were sacred. Sometimes it was as simple as a walk through Boston Common. Other times we saved for trips. Cape Cod in the summer, Maine in the fall. Each vacation became a ritual of love. Daniel handling all the details, me marveling at how he balanced everything while still making me feel cherished. Friends joked we still acted like newlyweds, and I didn't care. It was true. I would catch him watching me from across the room and blush like a schoolgirl. Daniel had a calm strength unlike anyone I'd ever known. Even when things went wrong, missed trains, sudden downpours, little mishaps, he never lost his temper. He'd laugh, find a solution, and somehow make me laugh too. More than once I thought to myself that if men with angelic patience really existed, I had married one. He wasn't just my husband. He was my partner, my safe place, my miracle. Looking back, it almost hurts how flawless those years seemed. I had no reason to doubt him, no reason to fear the future. If someone had asked me to describe my life, in one word, I would have said blessed. That's how it felt, like I had been given a gift so rare and fragile nothing could take it away. Or so I thought, until not long after our 3rd anniversary. Daniel came home one evening with a look in his eyes I had only seen a handful of times before, the look he wore when standing at the edge of something big. He hung his coat, loosened his tie, and sat across from me at the kitchen table. "Emily," he said, "I just took on a case unlike anything I've ever handled. This one could define my career." And he wasn't exaggerating. His client was one of Boston's most powerful businessmen, the kind whose name appeared in financial magazines and on museum wings. The case was a divorce. Not just any divorce, but one involving assets worth hundreds of millions. Mansions, art collections, antique jewelry, vast portfolios. The wife was demanding half, despite never having worked or contributed to the empire. Listened as Daniel described the mountain of documents, endless meetings, and staggering stakes. Part of me swelled with pride. At such a young age, he was trusted with something monumental, a testament to his talent and rising reputation. But another part of me felt uneasy. The way he described the wife, relentless, manipulative, demanding, made me worry about what he was stepping into. "Are you sure this is worth it?" I asked one night as he pored over paperwork past midnight. "It sounds exhausting, maybe even dangerous." He smiled at me with that calm reassurance I loved. "Emily, this is what I was trained for. I know how to handle people like her. And this isn't just about money, it's about justice. He built everything himself. She's trying to take what she never earned." I wanted to believe him, and mostly I did. Still, as I watched him bury himself in briefs and depositions, unease settled in my chest. When he finally sat down with the wife, the stories he brought home afterward made my skin crawl. She carried herself like royalty despite humble beginnings, demanding luxuries that would drain her husband financially. Daniel, steady and sharp, dismantled her arguments piece by piece, reminding her that most assets predated the marriage, and that her lavish life had been entirely funded by someone else's work. In the end, she folded. She accepted a large apartment and a generous allowance, but nowhere near the half she had been fighting for. Daniel came home that evening with quiet triumph in his eyes. "It's settled," he told me, slipping off his watch. "The papers will be signed tomorrow." True to his word, his client was overjoyed, embracing Daniel and immediately arranging a hefty transfer to his account. It wasn't just about money. It was recognition that Daniel Whitmore was a force in Boston's legal world. That night, Daniel called me after leaving his client's office. I could hear the relief in his voice. "Emily, I'll wrap everything up tomorrow morning and then I'm coming straight home. No more late nights, no more endless calls, just us." I smiled as I set the dinner table, believing him. Believing that once this storm passed, life would return to the way we loved it. That Friday, I wanted everything perfect. I stopped at the market for his favorite wine and ingredients for a simple, elegant dinner. Candles, music, the comfort of roasted chicken filling our apartment. I wanted the night to be just ours. When my phone rang, I was setting the last candle. Daniel's voice came through, warm but tired. "I'm in the garage now, Emily. Give me 15 minutes and I'll be home." "Don't rush," I laughed softly. "Drive safe. Dinner's almost ready." But 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Then 40. I called his phone. It rang, then went to voicemail. My chest tightened. Daniel always kept his word. Even late, he would have called. By the time an hour had passed, panic took hold. I called the garage where he parked. The attendant confirmed my fear. Mr. Whitmore had picked up his car an hour ago. He should have already been home. I grabbed my coat and hurried into the streets, searching, whispering his name under my breath. Nothing. The city felt too big, too dark, suddenly hostile. I called my parents, my voice breaking. Then I called the police. They took my statement, asked for details, his last whereabouts, his car, what he was wearing. It felt surreal, as though I were describing a stranger instead of the man I had kissed goodbye that morning. That night stretched into a nightmare I could never have imagined. Daniel had vanished, swallowed whole by the city. Days blurred. Police cautioned that adults have the right to disappear, though one detective's tone hinted he didn't believe that. They checked traffic cameras, canvassed streets, questioned. Attendance. Nothing. No witnesses, no accidents, no car. Daniel had simply disappeared. I couldn't accept it. I called his phone endlessly, checked hospitals, left voicemails that echoed into silence. My parents and his stepped in, hiring a private investigator. We printed posters, plastered his face across Boston, begged online for information. Strangers sent sympathy and false leads, but nothing brought him back. Weeks stretched into months. The questions gnawed at me. Was he hurt? Taken? Gone forever? Sleep and food abandoned me. My body weakened. Our apartment screamed his absence. Finally, my parents admitted me to the hospital for severe depression and exhaustion. The sterile room felt like failure, not just as a wife, but as a human being. Nights were the hardest, but slowly, therapy and medication pulled me back from the edge. When discharged, Daniel was still gone, but I knew I had two choices: drown in grief or keep moving. I chose the latter. I took part-time work, not for money, but survival. Routine filled the silence. My lifeline became helping an elderly woman, Mrs. Henderson, a retired ballet dancer who needed care. Her lavender-scented apartment, her stories of love and loss gave me comfort. "You'll find your way too, dear," she told me once. Grief never leaves us, but it teaches us to move. Word spread that I was reliable. Soon other families hired me. Cleaning, house-sitting, errands. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept me afloat. Still, Daniel haunted me everywhere. In songs, in strangers' cologne, in empty bed sheets. Then came the day that changed everything. I was hired to clean a grand estate in Back Bay owned by Victoria Reynolds, a powerful businesswoman. The place was immaculate. Marble floors, sweeping staircases, priceless art. As I dusted shelves in the library, I heard it. A voice. Deep, steady, achingly familiar. "Daniel." I froze, pulse pounding. It couldn't be. It was impossible. But every syllable pierced me with recognition. My hands trembled. No, it had to be memory playing tricks. Yet the echo lingered. Weeks later, Victoria called me back. I went, stomach knotted. While wiping the kitchen counters, the front door opened. Footsteps, measured, confident, too familiar. I turned, rag in hand, and the world tilted. Daniel, but not Daniel. His hair was shorter, styled. A scar cut along his cheekbone. His once warm eyes were distant, guarded. And when they met mine, there was no recognition, no smile. "Only suspicion. Mr. Alexandrovich." Victoria's smooth voice rang from the hall. I nearly collapsed. "Alexandrovich." My lips parted in a whisper. "Daniel." He glanced at me briefly, then turned away. No spark of memory. That night I told my parents, voice breaking. It was him. The scar, the voice, the way he moved. It was Daniel. They exchanged doubtful looks. "Grief can play cruel tricks," they said. But I knew. I called the investigator again, this time desperate. He dug deep, and weeks later delivered the truth that shook me to my core. Daniel had been attacked the night he vanished, beaten, left unconscious near Victoria's estate. She had found him, taken him in. When he woke, his memory was gone. She had given him a new identity, Dmitry Alexandrovich. And with wealth and influence, she made him hers. Daniel hadn't left me. He had been stolen. The rest of the story unraveled. Into confrontation, courts, painful recognition, and eventually, Daniel's memories returning. Piece by jagged piece, he remembered the garage, the attack, the shadows, and finally, me. And when he whispered through tears, "Emily, I didn't leave you. I never left you." I held him with everything I had left, because real love, I realized, can survive even the cruelest storms.